Moving on, we're now going to create the NAT gateways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the modules directory here. I'm going to open a new folder and I'm going to call it NAT gateways. And in this folder, I'm going to create two new files, main.tf and the variables.tf. And just like we've been doing, I'm also going to create a reference file that I've created for the NAT gateways so we can all just follow along and work with the project. So I'm just going to open a new file. I'll call it reference.tf. I'm going to paste in everything that we need to create our NAT gateways. I'll copy it up, comment it out, and in the main.tf, I'm going to paste it in here. And we're ready to start working. So before we begin, I'm just going to close the reference.tf file. I'm going to save it first. And then I'll move the variables to the corner of the screen. So we have two split screens. One split screen. To begin, the first argument here we have is the AIP. And here's the resource type and the reference name, AIP for NAT Gateway and AZ1. And we're going to allocate the elastic IP. This AIP will be used for the NAT Gateway in the public subnet, AZ1. So for VPC, we're going to type true. All right. And for tags, we're going to call it NAT Gateway AZ1. AZ1 EIP. And then we're just going to repeat the process because we're going to be creating two. So VPC, we type true. And NAT Gateway AZ2. So now moving on, our next resource to create is going to say we're going to create a NAT Gateway in public subnet AZ1. And here's the resource type and the reference name I've given it. The first argument says allocation ID. So remember we created this EIP here for NAT Gateway AZ1, and we're going to allocate it to the NAT Gateway in the public subnet AZ1. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this, paste it here, take away the double quotes, add a period, and at the end we're going to add another period and a type ID. And the next argument here, it's asking for the subnet. Remember we created our subnets in the VPC module and we outputted the subnet name. So what we're going to do is we're going to search for the name for the public subnet AZ1, which is going to be this. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to the NAT Gateway main.tf here, and then under subnet ID, I'm going to paste it here. But first, I'll reference it using var dot, and I'll paste it. And don't forget, whenever you create a resource using a reference from a different module, don't forget you also have to add the variable in the current module that you're working in. So I think I have an error here. I think I have that. And then in the variables, I'm going to type variable, and then I'll paste that resource name in it, or the output name for the public subnet AZ1, and then we're good to go. So the next argument that we have here is name. So I'm just going to call it the NAT Gateway AZ1. And then the next argument, that says to ensure proper ordering, it is recommended to add an explicit dependency. So because this NAT gateway is going to be dependent on the internet gateway, I'm going to go back to my VPC where I created my internet gateway and I outputted the name. So I'll go here. I'm just going to look. right here is where I outputted the name for the internet gateway. So I'm just gonna copy it, and back in my main.tf, I'm gonna reference it using var dot, and then I'll paste it in here. And then also I'll make sure to add the variable. Moving on, we're gonna create our NAT gateway in public subnet AZ2. And for the allocation ID, just like we did up here with the elastic IP, I'm gonna copy this reference name and resource name I give it. I'll scroll down to allocation ID. I'll paste it in here. I'll take away the quote, add a period at the end, or add another period and type the ID. And the subnet ID, because we're going to be creating a NAT gateway in public subnet AZ2, I'm going to go back to where I created the public subnet the public subnet in AZ2 and outputted the name in under the VPC module. So I'm going to click here, and it's this one right here, output public subnet AZ2 ID. I'll copy it, and then I'm going to go back to my NAT gateway module. I'll reference it with var dot, and I'll paste it in here, and I'll create the variable for it. And there we go. And then for the name, I'm gonna call it NAT Gateway AZ2. And the next argument here, it says depends on, and it depends on the internet gateway. So I'm gonna reference it using var dot internet gateway. I need to put this in square brackets as well. So moving on, the next resource that we need to create is a private route table in AZ1 and add route through the NAT gateway in AZ1. And here's the resource type and the reference name that I've given it. So for the VPC ID, remember in the VPC module, we did create the VPC there, and we exported the name right here, VPC ID. So I'm gonna copy that, and then I'll go back to my main.tf. I'll reference it using var dot, and then I'll paste it in there. Next argument is CIDR block. For the CIDR, we're gonna route traffic to anywhere on the internet. So I'm gonna use square brackets, and the syntax to do that, we're gonna type in 0.0.0.0/0. The next argument here is NAT gateway ID. Remember, we created a NAT gateway up here in the public subnet 1. So I'll copy the resource type and the reference name. Scroll down. I'll paste it here. I'll take away this, add a period at the end, add another period, and type .id. And the next argument here is name. And for the name, I'm gonna call it private route table AZ1. Moving on, the next resource we need to create here is to associate the private app subnet in AZ1 with the private route table in AZ1. And for the subnet ID, if you remember in the VPC module, we created the subnet, the private app subnet in AZ1, and we outputted the name. So if I scroll down here, there should be a private app subnet in AZ1. I'm gonna copy this and go back to main.tf, And I'm gonna reference it here by typing var dot, and then I'll paste it in here, and I'll create the variable for it. One second. Next argument is route table ID, and if you remember, we created the route table right here. So I'm gonna copy that, the reference ID and the reference type and the reference name, and I'll scroll down. I'll paste it here. I'm gonna take away the quotes, add a period, and at the end, I'll add another period and type .id. So moving on, the next resource we're gonna create is to associate the private data subnet AZ1 with the private route table AZ1. And here's the resource ID and the reference ID and the resource name given it. So for the subnet, we created a private data subnet AZ1 in the VPC module, and we outputted the name. So I'll go here and I'll look for the private data subnet, which is this. I'll copy it. I'll go back to the main.tf. I'll reference it using var dot. I'll paste it in there, and then I'll create the variable for it. And the next argument is the route table ID, which is going to be this ID right here, the same route table. For the app subnet, is what we're going to use for the data subnet as well. So I'll paste that right here. So the next resource we need to create is the private route table in AZ2 and add a route through the NAT Gateway in AZ2. Here's the resource type and the reference name. For VPC ID, we already did the VPC ID when we created the route table in AZ1. So I'm just going to reference it by typing var dot, and it's going to be VPC ID, and we already created the variable right here as well. So moving on, the next is going to be route, and we're going to be routing traffic to anywhere on the internet. So I'm just going to scroll up here and copy this and scroll down. I'll paste it in here as well. And NAT Gateway ID, we created the NAT Gateway in AZ2. So I'm just going to scroll up, and it's going to be this resource right here. So I'll copy, scroll back down, I'll paste it, take away the quote, add a period, and at the end, I'm going to add another period and type .id. And for name, I'm just going to call it private route table AZ2. So moving on, we're going to have to associate the private app subnet AZ1 with the private route table AZ1. So for subnet ID, in the VPC module, we created the private app subnet AZ2. So I'm going to go over to the outputs where we outputted the name and search for private app subnet in AZ2. Actually, let me take a look. Yeah, private app subnet AZ2. It's gonna be this. So I'll copy this. Go back to my main.tf. I'll reference it by typing var dot. I'll paste it, and then I'll create the variable for it. Paste that in there. There we go. The next argument is route table ID. So I'm going to scroll up to where we created the route table in AZ2. It's going to be this. So I'll copy the reference name and the resource type. Scroll down, paste it, and take away the quotes. Add a period, add another period, and type ID. The next resource we're going to create is the private data subnet AZ2 with a private route table in AZ2. So like we did before, I'll go back to the output where we outputted it. I'll search for the private data subnet in AZ2, which is this. I'll copy, the name we give it. Go back here and reference it by typing var dot, and then I'll paste it and create the variable for it. And the route table ID is going to be the same route table. So I'll copy that and paste it right here. So currently that's everything we need to create the module for the NAT gateways. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save everything. So I'm just going to click and save all. And then I'm going to close this and close the main.tf as well. I'll close the variables.tf as well. I'm going to go into the project file, the main.tf here. I'll click on it and then give it 2 spaces, and I'm going to write a note. It says create NAT Gateway under gateways. Enter. And then I'm going to type module. And the name of the module, I'm going to call it NAT underscore gateway. The first argument here is going to be source. So for the source, I'm going to go up 2 directories, / and it's going to be this address right here. Click and enter. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the variables that I created in the NAT Gateway folder here. I'm just going to drag it and drop it right here. And then I'm just going to copy everything. I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to clean it up. I'll do the same for this. Clean that up as well. I'm just going to make sure that everything aligns. And then I'm going to fill in the information one by one. So because everything that we're working here, all the variables were created in the VPC module, we're going to reference the VPC module for the resources that we need to fill this up. So the first argument is public subnet. So we're going to reference module.vpc, and it's going to be public vpc dot. It's going to be public subnet AZ1. So it's going to be this one ID right here. And the internet gateway was in the VPC module as well. So we'll do module.vpc.internet gateway. And public subnet AZ2 ID. So we do module.vpc.public subnet AZ2 ID. And the VPC ID would be module.vpc.vpc ID. Next argument is private app subnet AZ1 ID. So we're going to do module.vpc.private app subnet AZ1 ID. So what I can do is I can also copy it from here and paste it. The next argument is private data subnet AZ1, and we're going to reference the VPC module as well. So module.vpc dot, and then I'll copy this and paste it. So just however you feel like doing it will work still. I'm just going to quickly do the rest of this. think this way might actually be better because you might get confused and click on something which was not required for you to click on. With that being said, that's everything that we need to create our NAT gateways on our AWS environment. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm just gonna save everything. Yeah, I did save everything already. So now I'm just gonna close the variables.tf. We don't need it at the moment. I'm gonna close this as well. Actually, I'll close everything. And under PCI DSS, the main folder, I'll click on this and I'll click and I'll click on open in integrated terminal. The first command I'm gonna give is I'm gonna say Terraform FMT, and it's just what that's gonna do is just gonna format everything so everything aligns very well under each other. And then I'm gonna type Terraform in it, so it's gonna say initializing in the backend. Terraform has been successfully initialized. And the next command I'm gonna give it is Terraform plan, and that's gonna take a minute. So basically it's saying it's gonna add 23 items to our AWS environment. And I'm gonna type in Terraform. Apply. And now it's creating all the resources. And once all the resources are created, I will do a quick demo of everything that's been created on AWS. So after about 5 minutes, every resource is currently created. So I'm just gonna go onto my AWS environment and do a quick walkthrough of everything that's been created. So if I go into the VPC console, while that loads, I'm just gonna go here into your VPCs. Make sure I'm in this right over some region. So here's our VPC we've been working on. So I'm just gonna filter by this VPC. I only have one, but I'm just gonna filter by it. I'll click on it. So if I go down and search for NAT gateways right here, here we can see our NAT gateway in AZ1. So if I in AZ1 and AZ2, if I click on this one right here, you can take a look. There's the name we gave it, the subnet in AZ1. Monitoring tags, the name we gave it. But one other thing we can look at is the route tables. So if I go on the route tables and the private route table in AZ1, if I click on this, with this subnet associations, you can see subnets in AZ1, private app subnet AZ1, and private data AZ1. If I go back to route tables, if I click on this one as well, and subnet associations, you can see private app subnet AZ2 and private data subnet AZ2. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back to our folder and then I'm gonna commit everything into GitHub. So I'm just gonna type create it NAT Gateway module as a note. I'll commit it and then I'm just gonna sync the changes. And there we go. So if I currently go on my GitHub account, and this is our repository we're working on. If I go into modules, here's a NAT Gateway module. So yeah, that's everything, and I'll see you in the next chapter.